After a young man from the UK decided to go out to a music festival in Tenerife, he went missing after a very suspicious and strange string of events. While many started out sympathizing with the man, social media soon turned on him when his shady past came to light. What happened to Jay Slater? Alright, so let me preface this video by saying that for the first time on this channel, this case was actually solved while this video was being edited. So I'll be including the final update and the resolution to this case at the very end of the video. Until then, enjoy the full story. This is a case that has just recently taken the UK and other parts of the world as well by storm. While it started out as a regular missing persons case, things got really out of hand when TikTok users started coming up with their own theories, jumping to conclusions, and digging up this guy's checkered past. Let's start back at the beginning. Jay Slater is a young man who was born back in 2005, living most of his life in Lancashire in the UK. While to those who know him, he might look like a stand-up young guy, he has actually been exposed to gang activity from a very early age. In November of 2017, when he was 12 years old, Jay was hanging out with a friend in the town of Oswestwhistle. There, it seems that 3 men hopped out of a car and attacked the 2 boys. Jay and his friend were beaten up, with Jay suffering a head injury. He fell to the ground as the trio continued to kick and pummel him. He rolled over and hid under a car until a passerby intervened. Jay continued to hide until the attackers hopped back into their car and fled. Given that onlookers could no longer see Jay, they felt that he must have been taken during the chaos. Jay's mom was called and she was told that he was likely taken away in the criminal's car, causing her to have an understandably hysterical reaction. She said, "I was hysterical on the end of the phone. People are saying there are gangs of youths in Oswestwhistle, but I know Jay wasn't involved in that. He had only been out of the house for about half an hour." It seems that Jay didn't really learn much about the horrors of gang life from this attack, as 4 years later he would go on to become part of a loosely organized street gang consisting of mostly 14 to 17-year-olds himself. Now 16 years old, Jay would go on to become just the type of attacker that had assaulted him in the past, only much, much worse. While his attackers gave him an old-fashioned beating with fists, Jay would turn to more violent means, such as machetes, golf clubs, and axes. In 2021, out in Rishton, Lancashire, a boy named Tom Hilton had gone to a place that they called the Mill, a popular meeting place for teenagers in the area. This was where he was confronted by a gang of 8 youths, an unnamed 14-year-old, an unnamed 15-year-old, James Meager, Davis Hargreaves, Kane Taylor, Connor Armstrong, Danny Yacoub, and of course, Jay Slater, age 16 at the time. The teens surrounded Tom and began to attack him with their fists at first. Tom began to try to run away. Ultimately, though, they took out their previously mentioned weapons of choice and hunted him down. Tom was attacked with the weapons, namely the machete, so badly that he was given heavy lacerations to his shoulders and legs. The main injury was to his head, with his head being chopped so severely that his skull was exposed. They left him to bleed out and fight for his life right there. In the end, Jay and his gang were all tracked down and arrested. It wouldn't be until 2023 when their court cases would finally come around and the boys would face sentencing at the Preston Crown Court. 2 of them were still young, only 16 and 17, and couldn't be named. The others were James, now 18, David, now also 18, Kane, now 20, Connor, now 19, Danny, now 18, and of course Jay Slater, now aged 18 as well. Tom, the victim, came to give his testimony in court. He described how he was left with no choice but to fight for his life, saying that the gang behaved much like a pack of gorillas. It was revealed that the teens even laughed and joked all throughout the attack, taunting the young man as they attempted to kill him. The judge, Philip Perry, stared the boys down and told them, "You should all 8 be thoroughly ashamed of yourselves, but I am not at all convinced that you are. Many of you have found these proceedings amusing throughout the trial yesterday and today, showing disrespect to the court. I hope for the sake of all your families, the public, and the people who have offered you jobs and apprenticeships and the sort that you all grow up." The judge debated on sentencing the boys to a much more serious charge of Section 18 wounding, which would have landed them all in youth custody. However, he decided that he would rather go down the route of rehabilitation, given that they were all still fairly young. He sentenced them instead on charges of violent disorder, witness intimidation, attempted robbery, and conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, as the boys were dealing drugs as well. Most of the boys ended up getting slapped with community service, called unpaid work in this court, as well as several other activities related to rehabilitation. Jay was no different, receiving an 18-month community order, including 25 days of rehabilitation activities and 150 hours of unpaid labor. Over the next year, it seemed to many that Jay really did want to turn over a new leaf. He got some new friends and threw himself into a new environment. He became an apprentice bricklayer, working hard at his job and impressing his company. However, did he really change all that much? Many would have said yes at the time, but they would soon come to question whether he really left the life of drugs and criminality behind. That's what brings us to the meat of today's video. Jay heard from his friends about the NRG Music Festival, a massive 3-day party consisting of pool parties, boat parties, outdoor raves, and nightclub romps. Given that he had now completed most of his sentence, he decided it was time to celebrate. NRG took place in Tenerife, an island of Spain that's actually more close to Western Africa. This party was to take place from the 14th to the 16th of June in 2024. Jay was more than hyped to attend, heading out with his friends Brad Page and Lucy Law. The three teens landed in Tenerife, heading to the Arona area on the south side of the island, and proceeded to party for the full 3 days straight. After these 3 full days of raging, the effects of constant drugs and alcohol with a lack of sleep were apparently taking a toll on Jay, as he was seen stumbling around the final rave being held at a local nightclub. At around 8:35 p.m., Jay posted a Snapchat showing him laughing and carrying on with his 2 friends. Jay and Lucy ran into 2 of Lucy's associates, 2 drug dealers from back in the UK who were also in Tenerife for the NRG festival. While one of these men has remained unnamed to this day, the other was a man named Ayub Qasim, a man who was jailed in 2015 for 9 years after he was found to be the ringleader of a gang dealing heroin and crack back in London. He was childhood friends with a rapper named Potter Paper and was part of his legal cannabis operation as well. He was a pretty big player in the game and seemed to hit it off with Jay. Brad and Lucy got tired and decided it was time to head back to the hotel. They approached Jay, who was seen dancing shirtless at the nightclub around 1 a.m. Jay, however, wasn't ready for the party to end and stayed behind with Ayub and his friend. Jay was soon seen meeting with a young man and admiring his Rolex watch. At some point during the night, it has been said that the Rolex watch was stolen from the nightclub, causing quite a scene. Jay was one of the people accused of stealing that watch, accused of stealing it by the owner himself, something he denied at the time. They continued to party until the early hours of the morning, with Jay deciding to head back to Ayub's Airbnb in the Damascus area to sleep on the couch. It's unknown exactly as to why, given that Jay's own accommodation was only 10 minutes away while Ayub's was over 45 minutes away. They left at around 6 a.m. A detective has since said that, while in the car, Jay bragged to his friends on social media about stealing the Rolex. After a long drive, the 3 men arrived at Ayub's Airbnb. This next part of the story comes from Ayub himself, so take it with some scrutiny. The 3 men entered the Damascus Airbnb. With the third mystery man going straight to sleep, Ayub told Jay, "Yo bro, the sofa's for you there," threw him a blanket, and gave him a towel in case he needed to take a shower. Jay asked Ayub for a cigarette, receiving a Camel in return. He asked for a phone charger and was told to go to Ayub's friend's room and grab one, which he did. Ayub then went to sleep, but was soon awoken by the doorbell ringing. He came out to see a woman asking him to please move his car, and he complied. Ayub could see Jay standing around and talking with the woman. It appeared that Jay was asking the woman about when the buses in the area were running, being told that he could get one every 10 minutes, which wasn't true. Ayub, unsure why Jay was so eager to leave after just getting there, told him, "Chill mate, I'll drop you off later when I wake up." But Jay responded with, "Nah, I need some scran, I'm hungry," and insisted on finding a bus. Ayub told him, "Do what you like," and went back inside to get some sleep. Now we get back to the details of the story that are known to be true. At 7:30 a.m., Jay posted a Snapchat of himself holding a cigarette in his hand, sitting outside of the Airbnb. This was near the rural Del Tenoa Park on the north side of the island. He hung around for about 30 minutes before deciding to head off to the bus stop. He did so, asking the person working there when the bus to Los Cristianos would be. He was told that he had just missed it and the next bus wouldn't arrive for 2 hours. Strangely, after 20 minutes, instead of waiting, Jay decided he would just walk. However, the bus stop worker noticed that Jay had actually taken off, walking very fast in the opposite direction of his destination. Walking on the remote roads, Jay decided to give Brad a video call. He told Brad that he was pretty far off, with Brad seeing that he was walking off-road in some gravel. Brad has said of the call, he was on the phone and he goes, "I've got walk and go all down that road." He went off the road. That's how I knew he went off-road because, you know when you walk on gravel or whatever it is, you can, you know what I mean, stones. Jay showed Brad the long way home, seemingly understanding that it would be quite a trek. However, Brad says that it didn't seem he was very concerned for his safety. At the time, neither of them were, with both of them laughing about the whole ordeal. Brad felt that this was definitely a road he would have avoided himself, asking Jay why he couldn't take a safer path. He could hear his feet sliding off rocks, nearly tripping multiple times. Brad said, "I said, put your location on." He said, 15-minute drive, 14-hour walk. I don't know if it's accurate or not, so I said to him, "It's only a 15-minute drive, get a taxi." Then Jay abruptly ended the call, saying that someone else was trying to call him. He promised he would call Brad back soon. It's unknown if Jay really did get a call from someone else during this time frame. What is known is that, 5 minutes later, he placed a call to his other friend, Lucy, himself. This time, though, he seemed much more panicked than he did in his call to Brad. He told Lucy that he had missed his bus, saying that he was walking back to their hotel instead, which would take 10 hours. He told her that he was lost in the mountains, his phone battery was down to 1%, and he had cut his leg on a cactus. He lamented that he had no water or supplies of any kind and was getting thirsty. Lucy asked him to pin his location, which showed he was in the rural Deltano Park area, a mountainous area usually frequented by hikers. At around this time, Ayub Qasim said that he received a call from one of Jay's friends, likely Lucy, saying that Jay was lying in a ditch somewhere and was, quote, bitten by a cactus. At 9 a.m., less than 30 minutes after his call to Lucy ended, a missing persons report was filed for Jay and the Spanish police began their search for him. They, along with a mountain team, went to the area where Jay's location was last shown and searched the area with dogs, helicopters, and drones. They continued to search all day, turning up absolutely nothing related to Jay. In less than only 30 minutes, he had completely vanished from the area without a trace, with even the drones unable to see him in any direction despite the area being mostly barren with few places to hide. After failing to find Jay, the police in the UK were notified, who in turn went up to Jay's mom, Debbie's home, at about 2 a.m. to notify her about what had happened. They told her that she should probably catch the first flight out to Tenerife. She grabbed the first available flight at 7 a.m., flying out with her son Zach, Jay's brother, to help search. At around this time, Debbie received a message on Snapchat from someone unknown to her, saying, "Kiss goodbye to your boy, you're never going to see him again. He owes me a lot of money." For the time being, Lucy Law set up a GoFundMe page in order to help out with costs involving Jay's search. She spoke to the media about her own dissatisfaction with the search, feeling that the police weren't doing enough to help find him.
If you look around, you can literally see it's not safe for anybody to have been here without any of the supplies that you need. He's not got any hiking stuff, he's not got any sun cream, he's not got his phone, he's in severe danger. And I just feel like I've been up here every single day since that it's happened. I've been walking around trying to find him, literally doing everything that I possibly can. And in the full time I've been up here, I haven't seen one helicopter, which I feel like is very, very important, because the helicopters will be able to see things like, yes, they've had drones up here, yes, they have had dogs. However, they haven't actually had a scent from anything of Jay's, so I know that the dogs will be able to sniff out any humans, but obviously there's humans down there looking for Jay, and I think that could be misleading for them. I feel like they definitely need to get a scent from Jay. With the time I've spoke to them, I've said you need to get a scent, and they've sort of disregarded that.
At around 12:30 p.m., the police decided to search the south of the island after hearing of a possible sighting of Jay. Some said they had saw him looking pretty rough with 2 other men. The police found nothing and moved on to Jay's hotel room, finding nothing of note there either. Debbie appeared on TV begging for help, wondering if Jay had been kidnapped. The search continued for 2 more days without much happening. It was now Friday, and the Lancashire police offered to help out the Spanish police with the search. They were shot down, with the Spanish police saying that they were, quote, satisfied that they have the resources they need. The search had now proceeded to a 22,000-foot deep ravine in Masca, an area called the Badlands by the locals. On Saturday, the police were notified of a possible new sighting of Jay once again. It seemed that someone had seen Jay at a local church at around 6 p.m. on Monday, sitting on a nearby bench with two men. CCTV footage from the church did indeed show a man around that time that appeared to match Jay's build, although it couldn't be made clear whether or not it's him for sure. Jay's father, who was now on the island as well, and his brother went out to the church to look. They turned up absolutely nothing. The next day, on Tuesday, the police expanded their search to small rundown buildings in the Datino Park area where Jay's phone last pinged. They did find signs of human life in these abandoned buildings, saying that they found shoelaces tied with twigs to form various symbols that they described as haunting, like something from a horror movie. They also found a few empty water bottles and a set of perfectly clean women's clothing. At around this time, Jay's mom Debbie was receiving a lot of trolling and criticism online. She was accused of setting up the GoFundMe to profit off of her son's disappearance, with many comparing her to a woman named Karen Matthews. Karen had become a national disgrace in 2008 when she conspired with a family member in order to hide her daughter and make money off the fake kidnapping. By now, Lucy's GoFundMe had far surpassed the £30,000 goal, leading to even more comparisons in this regard. In a very random twist of fate, the police came to find a man lost out in the Badlands near the Masca Ravine. This man, however, was not Jay. They had found a completely different missing man who hadn't been reported missing by pure coincidence while searching, coming across a Scottish hiker who had gotten lost in the mountains. The 51-year-old man was in an area that the police described as difficult and unsuitable for travel. The man, said to be tired and disoriented, was lifted out of the ravine and given help. It had now been a week since Jay had disappeared, and his father was spiraling more and more into despair. He had been placing missing persons posters all over the village of Santiago del Teide. He spoke to the media while at the church where Jay was possibly sighted.
Want my son back, end of. What more is there? It's been a week now, a week and nothing. So somebody somewhere must have helped him off that mountain. Somebody.
Must be like a living hell for you
It
and the
is a
family.
living hell. You don't, unless you're going through it, you can't explain. You can't understand what I'm going.
Do you think the authorities have done enough in their search?
Yes, I do. I honestly, everybody's been up there looking for him.
The island was searched very extensively, but to this day, Jay has never been seen again. One firefighter who helped out with the search told the media that it was very strange that Jay has still not been found. After all, it's a very small island, and the place in which he went missing doesn't have a lot of places to hide. Roughly 2 weeks after Jay first went missing, the police ended their search, but they say that the case is still open and they're still following up multiple lines of investigation. Lucy spoke to the media about her dissatisfaction with the search, saying that someone had given a false lead to the police about Jay getting a taxi to Los Cristianos. She said, "If this was the case, he would have rang his mom or one of us. I know him well and he would not have us worrying. Someone is trying to deter the police from him being up there. I'm starting to think he's been kidnapped." Wannabe online detectives, mainly across multiple Facebook groups, began to form theories as to what had happened to Jay, causing this case to blow up especially in the UK, but internationally as well. While many of the people in these groups are genuinely trying to piece together where Jay may have gone using trail cams and other methods, these groups also harbored a lot of trolls who targeted Jay's family members, mainly his mother Debbie, with cruel messages. She was bombarded with prank calls and inflammatory messages once these groups hit peak popularity. She said that many British people with northern accents had been calling her from unknown numbers, saying that they had kidnapped Jay because he owed them money. Debbie, while worried, wasn't sure that her son was kidnapped just yet. She said that he was more likely disoriented and didn't realize it was a 10-hour walk back to his place in the south of the island, although Jay had said to his friends on the phone that he knew it would be a 10 to 14 hour long walk. Debbie said that he would have consumed quite a bit of alcohol at the festival, and combined with his lack of knowledge about the island, he likely got himself lost. Debbie's boyfriend, a man named Andy, even got some messages of his own online. He said that a psychic medium had contacted him, saying that they knew of Jay's location, saying that they would tell him where he was if they flew him out to Tenerife for the weekend, all expenses paid. And he said, "It's just despicable. Some people just seem to thrive off people's agony." Jay's family, along with the public at large, were left with some pretty big questions. Why didn't the police feel that Ayub and the other British man weren't involved? Who else was at their Airbnb? Was Jay back in the drug game after he had seemingly turned over a new leaf? Was the theft of the Rolex significant to Jay's disappearance in any way? Why would Jay walk for 10 hours with no supplies and no phone battery and no directions instead of just waiting for the next bus and getting there in 2 hours and 45 minutes instead? Why didn't he just go back to the Airbnb and ask for a ride when it wouldn't have been too far off? After he ended his call, how did he manage to completely disappear in less than 30 minutes? Why did the Spanish police refuse help from the UK police? There were just a lot of questions that didn't really have answers. Ayub and his friend were questioned by the police as they were the last people to see Jay. They were due to leave and return to the UK on June 17th, the day Jay disappeared, but they were asked by the police to say one more day. They did so, and to the family's surprise, they were allowed to go back to the UK shortly after. The police were satisfied that they had been thoroughly questioned, so they took their passport details and then let them go. Mutual friends of Jay and Ayub were surprised to see them sending Snapchats of themselves at the Gatwick airport after leaving Tenerife. Lucy later told the media that she had tracked the two men down to their Airbnb after Jay had told them where it was just 2 hours after he went missing. She said, "They seemed startled and surprised that I had found them, and I asked them where Jay was. They said he had gone out for a cigarette and then come back and he was leaving to try to get a bus back into town. They just seemed shocked that I had managed to find them, and I know police have spoken to them, but I've soon found out that they have left the country. They need to be spoken to properly." Ayub has refused to reveal the identity of the other man who was with him and refuses to discuss the stolen Rolex at all. Mark Williams Thomas, a detective who has worked on multiple TV shows, decided to take up the case. He interviewed Ayub and Jay's friends, saying that Jay had admitted to stealing the watch to his friends. There have been posts on social media saying that Jay posted pictures of the watch in the car with the three men, but it hasn't been proven. Ayub has now deleted all of his posts from his social media. Williams Thomas said, "En route, Jay posted a Snapchat saying that they had taken a 12,000-pound Rolex from a person. We have been unable to validate this in terms of a reported theft. However, friends of Jay would not make this up, and the watch was the subject of a later conversation between them." Users on TikTok quickly developed a fascination with Jay and shared news of his disappearance in order to raise awareness. However, it wasn't too long before social media does what it does, and they turned on the very person that they so claimed to care for. When some found out about the machete attack that Jay had been a part of, he quickly went from being the own hero in his story to the villain. While users started out pleading for help in the search, now they hoped for his death, writing comments such as, "Fair play to Jay Slater, man. Went from nearly killing a kid with a machete to being donor meat in boss man's shop." Debbie continued to be trolled relentlessly online, being forced to hear about all of the conspiracy theories surrounding her son's disappearance, saying to all of them, "I really am saddened by all your comments. You seem to be so bothered about this GoFundMe page." The firm where Jay works as a bricklayer has defended him, saying that the picture the public was now painting of him was not true. They wrote, "Jay has been with us since he left school and is liked by all. He's a valued member of our team and we stand by him. The picture being painted of him is just not true. The fact is, he's a 19-year-old lad missing in a foreign country. He needs to be back home where he belongs. Come on, Jay, we are all praying for you." More surprisingly, Jay's original victim, Tom Hilton, even spoke out in his support. When seeing that Jay was being lambasted online for his previous crimes, he decided to speak out against all of the online discourse. He said, "Whoever's writing these TikToks, give it a rest. This young lad's missing and his family's heartbroken. Put yourself in their shoes. Stop talking nonsense on social and get this lad found. Mentioning my name, all this and that. And have some respect and help find this boy and get him back to his family." As of the writing of this video, this is pretty much where we're at. There are still several pretty common theories as to what might have happened to Jay, and they go as follows. Starting with what is the least likely, some feel that Jay was targeted in some sort of revenge scheme by Tom Hilton. However, given the international scope of the crime and Tom's own statements online, this theory isn't taken too seriously. Another theory is the most simple, that Jay simply got lost in the Badlands as he attempted to return to his lodging in Los Cristianos. People feel that Jay was drunk, sleep-deprived, disoriented, hungry, and simply didn't realize how long back the walk would really be. Being that disoriented would also explain why he chose to walk rather than wait for the bus and get there that much sooner. A more criminal theory is that Jay was indeed taken by someone. From the very beginning, those involved in the case have expressed fears that Jay might have been kidnapped for whatever reason. Whether it was due to the theft of the Rolex, his interactions with drug dealers, or his criminal past, he had many reasons for people to dislike him. As to why Jay's phone was found in such a remote location, it has been theorized by detectives that it could have been deliberately thrown out into the wild to throw off the police, given that it was found so far off from the actual road. A journalist covering the case in Tenerife had a conversation with a British ex-army officer, saying, "We're not obviously being kept up to speed, but the former officer did tell me that he thought where the ping came from was rather surprising because it was really steep to get to, as it was covered in undergrowth and cacti. He said to get there you'd have to need a machete, or, he suggested, someone had thrown the phone into that growth." Given that Jay was supposedly seen at the church, sitting on a bench with two men, many believe that a couple of bad people tracked him down and took him with them. Where they went after that would be a mystery, but the outcome very likely would not be pretty. One more theory is that Jay is willingly staying missing, that he is in hiding. Whether due to the theft of the watch, something that happened at the nightclub, or something that happened with Ayub and the other drug dealers, Jay might have felt that he had some reason to hide. After all, he did insist on leaving the Airbnb very shortly after arriving. He couldn't even wait for the bus, feeling that he needed to get away from the area as soon as possible. The sad truth is, we have very little evidence as to which theory, if any of them, are actually true. All of these theories are based mainly on circumstantial evidence and nothing more. The police, Jay's family, and his friends all have very little idea as to where he has actually gone. While the Spanish police claim to be following multiple leads, none of them have panned out so far, with Jay's father even calling them wild goose chases. For now, I have done my best to combine every single detail of what we know about this case at this point. Hopefully, we'll know pretty soon about what actually happened to this guy. And here is the update. 1 month after Jay went missing, the authorities came to find a male body down at the bottom of a narrow pit about 1 mile south of where Jay's phone last pinged. They said that this body showed signs consistent with an accidental fall. At first, they weren't sure if this was Jay, but did note that his items were found nearby. However, it has now been confirmed that this body belonged to none other than Jay Slater. Jay's mother spoke out about her sadness at finding that this was her son, while candlelight vigils were held all throughout his hometown in the UK. While his body has been found, there are some questions that we may never have answered. Namely, why was Jay so intent on walking the long walk back to his accommodations and skipping the bus? It's very possible that he may have still been foggy and lacking in judgment from all of the drugs and alcohol the night before. Possibly even feeling a little paranoid after the altercation involving the Rolex. While that seems to be the most likely explanation for sure, we'll never be able to know exactly what he was thinking that fateful day. Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Just recently I got a new camera, and I'm still kind of figuring it out. Hopefully it looks a little better, but I think I'll get it better the next time around, probably. If you're interested, I've started up a podcast with 4 of my friends called the NBR Podcast. If you like my channel, you might find it interesting. I've also opened up a merch store as well, after being asked to for quite a long time. You can see the link for that down in the description below. If you want, go ahead and follow me on social media. I also really appreciate when people follow me on Patreon. There you can get videos early, ad-free, and uncensored. Channel memberships are back up too, and you get the same benefits there as well. This has been your host Kyle, thank you, and good night.